So we'll do all that about 30 minutes from now. But Brady, when you are in, I love to just key into your reporting, man, your journalistic integrity, what you see out of this team, how you see and hear and feel differently than a lot of us do as fans as we watch it and we take it in. And one thing jumped out to you is you shot Moore and I a note last night, and that one thing is the quarterback in Geno Smith. And there is no question, and Geno said it beautifully so 2 years ago when he was comeback player of the year. You know, he tipped his cap to Pete Carroll, is a guy that believed in him, is a guy that just reversed the fortunes of his career, that empowered him in ways that nobody else ever had to get the very most out of him on that run to being comeback player of the year. But Mike Macdonald's going to ask maybe a little bit more, a little bit differently than Geno. Is that fair to characterize?
Yeah, and this conversation started a couple weeks ago when I can't remember the exact question that Macdonald was asked about Geno, but he said that they were trying to get him to take the next step as a leader. And he sort of threw that in there in a larger comment about Geno Smith. And I'm wondering, I missed a follow-up there, unfortunately, and it wasn't until a week or so later that I asked the follow-up. But when he said that about taking the next step as a leader, the wheels start turning in my mind. And I went back to the conversations I've had with people in the building about sort of what Geno Smith is like in the heat of the moment. And you remember the comment from Pete Carroll on your show a couple years ago about how Geno is.
Oh, do I remember? It was December 5th of 2022.
Of course.
How could I possibly forget Pete saying this to us, Brady? Very, very clearly about his quarterback.
We didn't have him in those situations enough to really know what it was going to be like. And we know Geno now. We know him and love him. And, you know, like all of us, you know, you take us for our good and our bad stuff. We don't all have it all right all the time. Geno has been remarkably on point, particularly when you've had a chance to interview him and you hear his response and how, you know, respects everybody and spreads it around to everybody and all that. Geno's a hothead now. He's a fierce competitor, and that doesn't mean that he's fierce and he's always right on point. You know, he's going to say the right thing, he's going to say the wrong thing. He's best when you guys see him, but out there now, he gets pissed, and so it's important that, you know, that we help him, and that he knows now. He knows that in these settings that he might fly off the handle a little bit because he cares so much, but he's learned how to come right back.
Yeah. And that's what Mike Macdonald is talking about. I suspected it when I heard him say the comment about Geno wanting him to take the next step as a leader. And then, you know, when we asked Macdonald about it last week, he sort of pointed to that and saying, I can't remember his exact wording. But
I do.
Yeah, we have
to cut
three
words.
Yeah.
No, not even that cut. This is my favorite 3 words I've heard. It's just embedded in my brain. The Voice of Poise.
Voice of Poise.
Which would be a great band name, as I've said.
Yeah.
Like, get rid of these ridiculous pornographic band names and have something like The Voice of Poise. And that's what they're asking of him.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Brady, I had not really thought of Geno as a hothead. You? Like,
No.
from the view and the optics that we get, would you view Geno as like Phillip Rivers, just an emotional mess and a hothead and all of that?
No, you don't really see a whole lot of those interactions on the sideline. But from what I've been told, talking to people in the organization, is that you do get those moments there when things don't go wrong. He is. I've heard another person in the building use the same word that Pete Carroll did, a hothead, and just being very temperamental when things don't go right. And you know, this is, I think, a bigger deal than people realize. Yeah. It's more of a thing than people realize, again, because you don't really see, though, like there hasn't been a number of cases where, you know, the cameras have caught him on the sideline and he's lighting up players. But I think there are moments like that where we don't see, and it has been something that the organization has been trying to get him to work on. And the messaging has been, hey, you can be mad on Mondays, you know, but in the moment, in the game, on the sideline, that's not the time to stew. And I think he does that.
Well, and a guy that was running a pretty good one in C.J. Stroud, the Rookie of the Year last year, elevating the Houston Texans, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And in some ways, quite honestly, Stroud and Geno's games are very similar. Body types are very similar. They both threw beautiful passes. Both can be incredibly accurate. Both have to play the game in the pocket. C.J. pretty calm, pretty poised. This was Jackson Smith and Jigba talking about Geno, and I think to your point about just messaging to his teammates.
I think just having a whole season with Geno going into year 2, our communication is better. You know, there's some guys, you can get on them, you can't get on them, and just, our communication and what he wants from me is more clear than ever. And, and me being a year two guy, we had a talk yesterday where, I can use my voice and tell him, hey, this is what I'm saying. And, I just think, with that comes time and growth, and, and it's been great so far. I just want to build on that and be the best we can.
Hey, man, I'll raise my hand, and I'm a total culprit of this. I've spent probably 90% of my time thinking about Mike McDonald and what he's going to do for this defense.
Yeah.
Because after all, he's going to call the signals, and you saw that out at OTAs. He's on the walkie-talkie. He's the one calling the defensive signals. That is all of his background. That's why he was hired. He is a mastermind on that side of the ball. But I don't think many of us have thought about the impact he can have on this offense, and on Geno in particular. And what if he takes, Brady, what if he takes Geno to the next level? Right? Everybody's always like, well, I can't see it with Geno. Well, every national guest we certainly have, well, he's good. He's, he can be a part of it. He can never lead the whole thing. What if McDonald actually is the exact right voice, the new voice at this stage of Geno's career to help him take that next step? What does this team look like?
Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen Geno's best football over the last couple of years. We've seen it in spurts. The first, 2/3 of 2022 and maybe the last third of last season. And his best football, it's pretty darn good. And I think that the desire in the organization is to even out that play. I mean, if you put both of those, if you put the first 2/3 of 2022, the last third of last season, you're talking about easily a top 10 quarterback. And they want to even that play out. And I think they also want to even out some of the temperament on the sideline. And, one of the things I've heard is that they love the accountability that he shows in the post-game press conferences where he's talking to reporters. And we all saw what happened there. The offensive line was terrible. Maybe your receiver dropped the ball. Geno always points the thumb back at himself. I think what they want to see more of is in the moment, doing a little bit more of that in the moment, not getting on guys the way that he tends to do. And that's what you're here. I think that's what you heard JSN allude to there. Yeah,
I think in the huddle, on the field, all the stuff that we don't see in its entirety, that is a way, as Tom Brady would say, to be endearing. Got to see Tom yesterday. Did I tell you that? I think I told you that last time.
I heard.
Yeah, you got to be endearing, man. You got to be endearing to your teammates. And I think that could be huge. And I would even also contend, Brady, that it's not even, putting the 2/3. It's just if you put his end of game work that he did in 23 and attach that to the body of work through the 3 quarters in 2022, I don't think you're talking about a top 10 quarterback. I think you're nearly talking about a top 5 quarterback. That would be awfully fun.